name's Brendan O'Sullivan, a Toastmaster from Brisbane, Australia. Welcome to my Toastmasters World Tour podcast. Please join me as I travel virtually around the world and chat to Toastmasters from different countries and all walks of life. Let's explore! For this episode of Toastmasters World Tour, we travel virtually to the Emerald Isle, to Cork, Ireland, famous for shamrocks, leprechauns, and the Blarney Stone, to chat to Paul O'Mahony, a highly experienced Toastmaster and podcaster. Listen in to get his insights and learn from his experience. Diagwitch, Paul.
Just more good.
Joseph Gwitch.
Oh, it's interesting to begin talking Irish with you. I must tell you that in the last 2 weeks, I was asked to do a series of very short videos, 25 seconds long, introducing people who were going to come from the UK to the Irish language and some of the things they might hear in County Kerry, because this year's District 71 conference is going to be in a place called Tralee. And I spent some time thinking about the phonetic, how to write the phonetic pronunciation of Diagwit.
Yes.
And it's just so nice to begin, because I'm not an Irish speaker of much competence.
Fair enough.
And the answer to Diagwit is Diasmuragwit.
Yes.
So Diagwit, you probably know, but maybe not everybody knows it. God be with you.
Yes.
And the reply, which is Diasmuragwit, is God and Mary be with you.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And then I respond, Joseph Gwitch. You keep adding the saints' names, right? So, Joseph comes after Mary. And I was interested to see how far you'd take it, because I believe, how many are there? There are about 35 add-ons. You keep listing all the saints, I believe. So it's interesting.
I'm only familiar with one add-on, well, two, I suppose. Diagwit, Diasmuragwit, and then the reply to that in Ireland is Diasmuragwit is Padraig. That's God and Mary be with you, and Patrick.
Yes, I knew he came into it. I might have got the order wrong. I thought Joseph came next, but that doesn't matter. We've had St. Patrick's Day recently, so I think that might be a good segue into, did you celebrate St. Patrick's Day recently?
Ireland did. Lots of people in Ireland did.
Yes.
There were parades as usual.
Yes.
Nobody in Ireland turns a river green. Nobody has upended dye into the River Liffey or the River Shannon. But parades, children going there, lots of green hats and other stuff. I have to confess that this year, Patrick's Day passed me by. I couldn't even tell you what I was doing that day.
Fair enough. Fair enough. What about in your club meetings? Do you have any face-to-face meetings?
I'm a member of 4 clubs, and I'm a member of 4 online clubs.
Okay.
I talk about one of them and St. Patrick's Day. One of the clubs, which is called Shilling Speakers, every year holds an Irish night. And on the Irish night, all of the speakers are from Ireland. All of the topics are about Ireland. There's poetry, there's storytelling in the form of traditional Irish storytelling. Not the kind of storytelling for the most part that we do in Toastmasters, but what's called in Irish Shanachie, an old storyteller. And we had some singing. That's right.
Awesome.
We had somebody sang Galway Bay. And so it was a variety.
I love that.
And I guess there were about 25 to 30 people there. Only a third of them were Irish.
Okay.
But this is a club which earlier in the year has held a Ukrainian night. And previously has held an African night.
I love that. I love these cultural elements. I find them really interesting and exciting. Yeah. Sorry, when was the Irish night?
The Irish night was, I think, on the 13th of March. It was on the Wednesday before St. Patrick's Day.
Yes, obviously, prelude to St. Patrick's Day, that was the stimulus. And did you have a favourite element of that evening? Any examples of what transpired?
What a good question. A man from Kerry told a collection of Irish myths and legends.
Awesome.
He spoke for about 10 minutes, and he's a very fine speaker. He has even been the chair of the Listowel Writers Festival, annual festival, very important one in Ireland. Listowel Writers, yes, Listowel Writers. That probably sticks out most in my mind. There was a quiz, and there were topics.
Okay.
So the quiz was about Ireland. What do you know about Ireland? And the topics were also about Ireland. But overall, what I liked most of all was the camaraderie, the joie de vivre, the general relaxation. There were, if I remember rightly, there weren't any evaluated speeches. I think there might have been one.
Okay.
And also there was no time limit.
Oh, wow.
I think the timer's role was to time one of the speeches, which was going to be evaluated. But everything else was kind of loose. And the president of the club, who is Irish, Anthony Garvey, lives in County Kerry. He has this thing he says every year, which is, that's the one meeting that we throw away the clock.
Like, knowing how well you Irish speak, I'm surprised the meeting's not still going. How long did it go for?
I think it only went about an hour and a half over time.
Okay.
It has gone on longer. I think we went on, it began at 7:30. I think it finished about 11.
I guess the Toastmasters timing discipline is in your blood now, so otherwise it might still be going. So did you come away from the meeting with a new favourite myth or legend?
No. I'm fairly familiar with some Irish myths and legends. There's one which is, have you ever heard of a place called the Giant's Causeway?
Been there, yeah.
Ireland.
Yes, I've been there. Yeah, fabulous place.
Oh, right, great. Well, there's a story about how the Giant's Causeway was formed, and it had something to do with the fight between a giant in Ireland and a giant in Scotland.
Yes.
And for some reason, the giant from Scotland came across to Ireland seeking the Irish giant. And everybody was very scared of this Scottish giant. And the mother of Finn McCool, I think it was, who's a character in Irish myths and legend, told her son, who was very young, to get into a pram, get into a pushchair, or one of these things that you cover the child up in. The Scottish giant arrives, and he wants to know, where is the Irish giant? And if I remember rightly, the mother says he's in the pram. And the giant looks at the pram, sees this very small child, and decides, oh my God, if a child that small can be that strong, I'm not going to get in any trouble with him. And he goes back to Scotland, and that's the end. Now, I've told the story very badly, but that's the kind of idea that a child would be in a pram.
Yeah. I've always loved that name, Finn McCool, so I think it's a great example. You mentioned table topics, Paul, and this is a very unscripted chat, so I'm going to hit you with a little challenge, an impromptu table topics. Table topics is all about impromptu, and this is an impromptu invite to a table topics question. Are you up for it?
Yes, of course, of course.
Okay. So my understanding is St. Patrick used the shamrock, which is like a three-leafed clover, to explain the Holy Trinity. If you were to travel back to pre-Christian times and wanted to explain the three tenets of your beliefs, what would you do with the shamrock to do that?
The great thing about the shamrock is that it's been growing in Ireland since before the dinosaurs were born. In fact, there are some who believe that there are some dinosaurs who lived on shamrock. Now, the evidence is unconfirmed. But the great thing about the shamrock back in those days is that they enabled people to become interested in science. Now, of course, they didn't use the word science at all. And the three leaves of the shamrock stood for the sun, the moon, and the stars. And by using the shamrock, people, I'm not sure, it may have even been dinosaurs, were able to lift up the shamrock and get people to look up above, into the heavens. And there's some evidence that the heavens were the original name for what subsequent people called heaven. Later on, many, many eons later. So the shamrock may well be the tool that began all religions that came to believe in a heaven and the afterlife.
I love that. That was world class. And what our dear listeners cannot see is the fabulous gestures Paul was using, looking up at the skies, and that was very entertaining. Well done. Thank you, Paul, for indulging me. Paul, we met in 2024 when we both attended the World Championships of Public Speaking. Was that your first time attending?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, me too. What did you think?
Oh, it was wonderful because I met, for a number of reasons. One is I met a whole load of people that I knew already who I'd met on Zoom and only met on Zoom. And I have found subsequent to the pandemic, that when you meet somebody who you haven't met face-to-face before, but you have met them on Zoom, it's a huge thrill. So there were lots of thrills like that. It would be well known to say that Toastmasters are, generally speaking, in fact, more than generally, almost without exception, people who are friendly to each other, people who are totally open to impromptu conversations, impromptu almost interviews. And I did interview a number of people while I was there. I'm a podcaster, and I do have a habit for many, many years of holding impromptu interviews with people and turning them into podcast episodes.
Awesome.
I had the unexpected thrill, I suppose is the right word, of being invited to go up onto the stage with the team from District 71, which had my own district, which had become a distinguished district for the first time in about 9 years.
Okay.
And it was a big thing because I'd already been feeling, look, it's an awful pity that over the last so many years, our leadership, whatever I meant by that, I don't know, hasn't succeeded in getting our district to become a distinguished district. Not that I think it's an easy thing to achieve, but I was very pleased that we had become a distinguished district. And I was taken aback when I was invited to, be one of the people in the group who were going up on stage. I hadn't expected that. That's actually quite normal. I didn't realize it was quite normal because as many people as possible from the district who are there go up on stage with the district director and the program quality director and the immediate past district director and all of those with a big banner. And what I was also surprised at was that there were some people from the district who I didn't know they were at the convention until then.
Right.
I hadn't been aware. But on top of that, now that I'm thinking about it, we have a member in my home club, Blarney Toastmasters Club, who lives in New York. And she's now 88 years of age, and her name is Lynn Gilbert. And Lynn came to the International Convention, and that's where we met face-to-face for the first time. I think she really came over to meet me, but that might not be 100% true. I also met a few other people who had been to Blarney Toastmasters, but particularly to meet Lynn Gilbert. She's a reasonably well-known photographer, portrait photographer of immense distinction. Okay. I'm also in a club called One Country, One World. And Morag Matheson, the international president, was a founding member, past international president, was a founding member of that club. Jean Gamester, who is now the second vice president to be international president in 2 years' time. She was also there, obviously. And a goodly number of people who were either candidates to be international directors or district directors were there. And finally, the last reason that I really loved it was that there were people from all over the world. I found myself sitting at dinner with a woman who came from Chad. Now, I haven't ever met anyone who came from Chad.
Exactly. Yeah.
I do know where Chad is, but it would have been, I'm quite certain that I would have had times when somebody would send me, "Where's Chad?" And I would have said, "Oh God, where in Africa is Chad?" Not quite sure, but that was just, there were little surprises like that. I'll just say something, because I was a bit disappointed in one aspect.
Oh, yeah.
And this is it. It's tremendous because you have terribly talented people running workshops, giving speeches, not just in the International Speech Contest, but they're like keynote speakers here and there.
Yes.
But what I would have liked, and I wondered if anybody had thought about it, is I would have liked the opportunity to go to a variety of meetings which had about 20 or 30 people at them, at which somebody might give, I don't know, a 5 to 7 minute speech, and there might be a chance to do evaluations, and you might what I would call participative educational experiences.
More interactive.
Other than just watching performances.
More interactive and more akin to the meetings.
Yeah. I expected the convention to be a bit more educational. Now, there were good educational slots, but a 45-minute to an hour speech by somebody where I listen to it isn't my educational preference. I don't learn that much from that. I can watch those kind of speeches on YouTube all the time.
I see. Yep.
So I learn better in a smaller group where I have a chance to say something and I have a chance to listen to many other people speaking as well.
Fair enough. Have you reached out to the powers that be and made those suggestions?
That's a really good question. I have put that experience and that suggestion on, I'm pretty sure, on one of the episodes of the podcast, the Irish Talkers podcast, which is the podcast about Toastmasters that has been going now for 11 years, a weekly episode.
Wow.
And I'm pretty sure, not certain, that when I said something about, I would have run a 15-minute maximum, given a 15-minute maximum report on the convention in that podcast. I do remember giving a few speeches about the experience of the convention, and I'll be taken aback if I didn't mention that, one thing that I think would improve things would be to hold these small workshops. Now, they're complicated, but I've been to a few conferences at which you might have a menu of 5 or 6 small workshops going on at the same time. And you might even have somebody who comes along to the conference or convention and decides they're going to offer a workshop. And they advertise it, perhaps by putting up posters on the wall or something like that, or even sending messages to people, and they encourage people to come. And if people come, they have that experience. And if nobody comes, you talk to yourself.
Sure. Is the Irish Talkers, is that your podcast, Paul, or is it a different one that you run?
No, I'm part of a team. I'm a co-host on the podcast. I didn't start it. It was started by Moira O'Brien, and who's a member of Blarney Toastmasters, but who at the time it began owned an international radio station, an online radio station called Irish Radio International. And a member of Blarney Toastmasters, a guy called Ted Melanphy, who'd been in Blarney Toastmasters for, I'd say, about nearly 10 years at the time. He went to Moira O'Brien and said, I'd like to do a show about Toastmasters. And she said, why not? And at the end, towards the end of 2014, that's when it began. And there were weekly 1 hour episodes, but it had music at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow or other, the music was, you were able to play any music you like without infringing copyright. I think it went through one of the apps which had found a way of doing that, a name of which I forget right now. But that podcast was started by Ted and another woman, Sharon O'Neill. These are names that, but just to say, the Blarney Club had 3 people in it. The show was called at the time The Talk Show for Talkers.
Mm-hmm.
It, in the last couple of years, has morphed into being Irish Talkers.
Okay.
But 2017, I, if you like, came on board as one of the hosts, and I've been on the podcast since then.
I must listen. And can we put a link in the show to that?
Oh yeah, ever so easy. It's on. Well, it's obviously on Spotify and Apple and iHeartRadio and all of these things. But we also have a website on which everything from 2000 and you can actually find everything from 2014.
Okay.
We've interviewed world champions of public speaking. We've interviewed district directors, international directors, Dan Rex, the CEO of Toastmasters. We've interviewed people who have only just joined Toastmasters 1 week.
Uh-huh. Love that. Yeah, get a variety.
Wide variety of people. But there's also a kind of magazine element of it, which involves a word of the show, if you like.
Okay, all right. I'm fascinated that you were at the convention and you would have these sort of impromptu interviews. One question in my mind is, were you doing that on your phone or did you have some other gear?
All on my phone.
What sort of app would you use for that?
I use an app called Voice Record Pro.
Ah, okay. And how does that go sound quality wise?
I don't know a better one that you can get easily on your phone. I think the sound quality is easily good enough. But as a podcaster, I mean, your sound on this podcast is superb.
Well,
I've listened to several episodes today. Top class sound. I'm full of admiration. I've been podcasting since 2007. I've done a wide variety of different types of podcasts, and I've always had my own since then, together with some business ones and some for clients and this one for Toastmasters. I've always thought that provided you can hear clearly what people are saying, that having studio quality sound has never been my priority. My priority has always been content. Yeah. What is being said, provided it can be heard.
Yes.
I like ambient stuff. So at the convention, I did several interviews and none of them were done in a sound box or none of them were done in a static or what would you call it, a studio type environment. Some were done in the lobby. I remember doing one with the guy who got second to Luisa Mandalfo. He and his cousin, and we were in a table in the lobby, and all these people kept coming up, congratulating him. So they were all also, most of them were recorded in the podcast. I mean, I was interviewing him, but all these people came and interrupted. And rightly or wrongly, that's me. That's my style, I suppose you'd call it.
Yeah. I just love that. And I cannot wait to hear those ones in particular, the ones that you did live from the convention. And it's inspired me. I'd love to give that a crack. I wish I'd been into it back then and done the same thing, because there were so many fabulous people, from around the world, as you say. And the other thing one of the first things that struck me getting there with the opening ceremony, it was like akin to the Olympics, wasn't it? There was the marching of the flags. I could not believe how many nations were there being represented. It was very similar to, wouldn't have been much less than the Olympics. It was well over 100, I think.
Oh, yeah, I think so, yeah. I'd watched the International Convention online for about 3 years before that.
I see.
Like, international conventions are usually quite a bit of it is live streamed. Not all of it by any means, unfortunately, but a good deal of it.
Okay.
So you can buy access to whatever is broadcast live. You can buy access to it. I didn't think it was too expensive for me. And then I had contact with people who were at the convention while they were there, and I probably had contact on WhatsApp. And I'd been asked by District 71, one of the district directors asked me if I would be willing to watch, I think it was the one in the Bahamas, to watch the convention online and to essentially report on it.
Okay.
On district Facebook. So I did things like I videoed the television, my laptop, I videoed what was going on.
Yep.
And you broadcast it. Chunks of it. I got the district leadership team, people who were there, to send me photos, to send me reports. So I've done that about 3 times, I think. And I loved it because it was a project. I was asked to do it. I like, it's a bit like being a citizen journalist, really, isn't it? It's a bit like the term was used. So it would, and I'm a live streamer anyway. That's another aspect of things I've done in my life.
Okay, cool.
I've done a lot of live streaming. And I used to tear my hair out, I still do, about how little of the content at Toastmasters is live streamed.
Okay.
For example, I do know there are a few districts in the world who have live streamed their convention, their conference. A lot of it is on live. You can watch it. You can't go to the conference, but you can watch it. But the vast majority of districts do not live stream things. Now, there are certain things you can't live stream, but there are lots of things you can live stream. Like, for example, a small thing, division speech contests.
Yes.
I'm sure all the listeners, or a lot of the listeners, would know that the division speech contests are the level, the winners of them, they go to the district level.
Yeah.
But there really isn't any good reason, in my opinion, why a division speech contest can't be live streamed.
Aren't there people going to use the same speech potentially in the district level?
Oh, yeah, but why should that matter? There's nothing against that at
Okay.
all. You might
Yeah.
use the same speech at your club,
Yeah.
at your area,
Uh-huh.
at your division, this is usual, and then at the district level. But there is nothing in the rules at all
Uh-huh.
that say you can't live stream it.
Uh-huh.
We used to
Yeah.
do division contests on Zoom during the pandemic.
Uh-huh.
That meant anyone could log into it from anywhere in the world and
Okay.
watch speeches in the final of the division. So why on earth they're not live streamed? Now, I'm not talking about putting them on conventional Zoom, but I'm saying put them live streamed on YouTube.
Okay. So it's not like a rugby match where you can then study your opponents and their moves and or a boxing match, you know. You better watch the jab, you know.
But watching the other people in the contest,
Yeah.
I mean, all that's going to do is distract you from getting better at your own speech.
Fair enough, yeah. In terms of live streaming, do these people usually pay for to watch the live streaming? And if not, is that a disincentive to turn up in person? Could that be an issue?
Yeah, that could be an issue, but just give you an example. The district I'm in is just about fairly soon going to have, same as in Australia, I'm sure, have district conference.
Mm-hmm.
I think there'll be 200 to 250 people at it live in County Kerry in Tralee.
Yeah.
How many members do we have in the district? Well, we have 185 clubs. You know, we must have 2,000 members.
Mm-hmm.
And 250 can go to the district conference. Now,
Sure.
At a division, you might get 50 people at the division final.
Uh-huh.
But there are people who can't go because they're in bed, they can't afford to go this year. There's money, there's ability, there's family commitments. So there are going to be plenty of people who can't go. I've yet to be persuaded by anybody that if a division contest was live streamed, that it would be a financial failure.
Okay, well, I'm going to play the devil's advocate here and say that, if I pay good money to go to the district conference, we've got one coming up in Stanthorpe in Queensland, Australia. If I paid good money to go to that, and I know that, there are cameras everywhere, things are being streamed, I'm not going to be able to play up. I'm not going to be able to do the whole, what happens at the district stays in the district. So I'm going to have to behave myself. I paid good money to go there and play up.
Well, of course, if you're going to, run naked across the stage and, what goes on conference stays on conference and your video live streamed, I can well understand why you might.
So I have an issue.
That's a powerful argument. I accept that, I'll have to reconsider my whole position as a result of that point. Now, you do not need loads of cameras to live stream people on a stage. Now, obviously, you can have, cameras all over the place. But to be honest, you can sit at home, watch a person on the stage delivering something with one camera, just one camera.
Okay. Yep.
And, it wouldn't be very sophisticated and all that. But I still think that it's not being done for a reason that to me isn't very clear.
Yeah.
That's all I want to say about it. If
you've had a good point.
Listeners to this podcast Oh, I love the way at the end of your podcast you talk about evaluations and the value of evaluations, and you invite people to send in their comments. So I look forward to people sending in their comments saying that Irish guy was talking through his hat. That whole is wrong. It's contrary to our values. It would undermine the financial health of whatever. I'm dying to hear that case made.
Fair enough. Thanks for listening to today's show. One of the key elements of Toastmasters is evaluations. This is how we grow and improve, both by encouraging comments for things we got right and points for improvement. We all learn and benefit from these evaluations, not just the person being evaluated. So any feedback in the comments is greatly appreciated. If you have a Toastmasters story you'd like to share or would like to be on the show, I'd love to hear from you. You can reach me at toastmastersworldtour@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.